The commemoration is observed annually on the day police in Sharpeville, South Africa, opened fire and killed 69 people at a peaceful protest against past laws in 1960, a reference point reflected on by several speakers at this UN event.
Permit me to begin in this Women's History Month by paying tribute to the women who were killed in the Sharpeville massacre of 1960 that gave inspiration to the UN International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. Among them, Maria Molebatsi, Elisa Moletsi, Nora Mbele, Miriam Sekitla, and Christina Motsepe. Prior waves of activism on this side of the Atlantic, of course, threw up rebel women like Maroon Queen, Nana, and Kitty Scarlett of Jamaica, Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman of the USA, and Cecile Fatiman and Marie-Jean Lamartiniere of our beloved and beleaguered Haiti. To speak the names of the ancestors is to make them live again and influence our actions today.
The General Assembly adopted a resolution back in 2013 declaring the International Decade for People of African Descent from 2015 until the end of this year, a landmark decision that called on member states and all relevant actors to work together under the theme Recognition, Justice and Development.
Regrettably, today's reality is heavily influenced by the legacies of past atrocities and crimes. These include colonialism, the slave trade, and slavery itself. These legacies continue to be acutely felt by people of African descent and invariably manifest themselves in the form of systemic racism in many countries around the world. People of African descent face many injustices as a result, evidenced by disproportionately high levels of poverty and hardship, higher levels of unemployment, a heightened vulnerability to police brutality, and a lack of access to education, health care, and social protection.
UN Chief Antonio Guterres said the results of continued racism were devastating, including opportunities stolen, dignity denied, rights violated, lives taken and destroyed. A message delivered to the Assembly by his Chief of Staff.
People of African descent face a unique history of systemic and institutionalized racism and profound challenges today. We must respond to that reality, learning from and building on the tireless advocacy of people of African descent. That includes governments advancing policies and other measures to eliminate racism against people of African descent, as well as tech firms urgently addressing racial bias in artificial intelligence. On this day, let's commit to work together to build a world of dignity, justice, and equal opportunity for every community, everywhere.
Several speakers called for governments to advance policies and other measures to eliminate racism against people of African descent and for tech firms to urgently address racial biases in artificial intelligence.
In commemorating this day, we must reaffirm our unwavering commitment to upholding human rights for all and tackling the root cause of systemic racism, discrimination, stemming from the historic injustices of enslavement, colonization, dispossession, and apartheid. Effectively addressing these profound inequalities requires concerted efforts to dismantle discriminatory systems and structures, promote diversity and inclusion, and ensure equitable access to opportunities for all individuals, regardless of race or ethnicity, to development justice. The International Decade for People of African Descent provided a unique opportunity to advance these principles and realize meaningful change.
The Permanent Forum also called on the General Assembly to proclaim a second international decade for people of African descent,
It is so decided.
recognizing that continued action was required to further dismantle systemic and institutionalized racism globally. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.